Welcome back, everyone, to the Wargiven Racing Podcast. This is episode 18, looking at the Phoenix race weekend for NASCAR, both the Cup Series and the Xfinity Series. So let's just dive on in to it with the Phoenix weekend preview. So, some quick track information. The 1.0 mile oval opened in 1964 with its first Cup race being held 24 years later in 1988. This track has 5 races across the top 3 series, with the Truck Series only running 1 race. They run in the fall and not in the spring. This is the 52nd Cup race at the track, which has had 2 races since 2005. And Martin Truex Jr. is the defending race winner from last spring. It is the 41st race for the Xfinity Series, the same deal as the Cup Series. A second race was added in 2005, and Austin Cindric, who is now in the Cup Series, is the defending race winner. The fall race at Phoenix is the championship race for the 3 top national series. Another interesting fact about Phoenix is that this is its third major, or third different configuration, as in 2019 the current configuration debuted where the start-finish line was moved to the old backstretch to allow on the restart drivers to cut the dog leg heading into turns 1 and 2. So this track is unique in the fact that pit road, the entrance to pit road, is immediately after turn 2 and wraps all the way around into the dog leg on the front stretch. So it's quite unique in that aspect. Taking a look at the Xfinity race, the United Rentals 200, the race preview. This is the 4th race of the season. There are 22 races after today left in the regular season before the Xfinity playoffs. There are 42 cars entered once again for 38 spots. The major changes for this week is that Luis Hezemans is driving the number 33 for the Ream Brothers Racing, and that Parker Resloff is making his Xfinity debut for Ryan Sieg Racing in the number 38. That is my bad. 20 minutes of practice and 1 lap qualifying is still the norm, as this is another oval. The practice and qualifying starts today at 11:30 EST, so about 2 hours after this video goes live. The race is later on in the day at 4:30 Eastern Standard, with green flag being estimated to be flown around 4:45. There are 200 laps in the United Rentals 200, being split up into stages of 45, 45, and then the final stage of 110. And then everything is being broadcast on FS1 for those in the United States, with Sirius XM NASCAR Radio Channel 90 covering the radio side of things. So talking about my prediction to win, so let's start off with the defending race winner from last week, Ty Gibbs. He ran well here last year, but I don't think he's going to do it. I think, AJ Allmendinger's been strong so far to start the year. The junior motorsports cars have been the strongest, with Noah Gragson finishing 3rd, 2nd, and 2nd in the first 3 races. I don't think Gragson breaks through to win today, but I certainly think he's going to be close. And then you've got Daniel Hemrick, who last time we were in Phoenix in the fall for the championship race, won his first NASCAR race in any of the national series and won the championship. So, he's a contender. Trevor Bayne in his running in Fontana for Joe Gibbs was strong. So you've got, again, 10 cars that could easily win this race and definitely be up front. I think I'm going to go with, for this race, I think AJ Allmendinger is going to break through and get his first win of the year. I wouldn't be surprised at all to see him take it from either his teammate Daniel Hemrick or either the 7 of Justin Allgaier or the 8 and 9 of Josh Berry and Noah Gragson, respectively. But I think AJ Allmendinger will win this week. So just taking a quick look at the points. Obviously, there's no cutoffs or anything at the moment. So, this is just an overview over the top 20 in points. Again, I find it absolutely crazy that, 20th place Jeremy Clements, who made last year's playoffs, is already 23 points behind. And Noah Gragson, who's in first with no wins, is 74 points ahead of the cutoff, which to me is insane. And then we have the two drivers locked into the playoffs, Ty Gibbs with his win last week, and then Austin Hill with his win in the first race at Daytona. So that wraps up Xfinity. Moving on to Cup with the Roof Mortgage 500K. This is one of NASCAR's 500 events that aren't really 500 miles. It's 312 miles. And taking a look at the race preview, this is also the fourth race of the season with 36 cars entered. Only the chartered cars are here this week, so that's why I did not include the entry list from Bob Pockers on Twitter, as it is mostly the same, if not completely the same, as the normal 36 cars. Another change with practice, it has returned to the 20 minutes session, but with two groups, and then they stay in those groups for single car qualifying. Qualifying remains the same with each group having the top 5 proceed to the top 10 shootout to determine the pole. Practice and qualifying is today at 1:30 EST before the Xfinity race, and then the race is 3:30 Sunday EST on Fox. The 312 racing laps are split up 60, 125, and 127. Another example of how NASCAR does their stages absolutely drives me up a wall. You saw Xfinity Series did it right, 45, 45, 110. That's my personal belief of how the stages should be split up, is the first two should be the same, and the third stage should be the longest stage. I hate how they do this. Again, drives me up a wall, but it is what it is. So it's 60 for stage 1. Stage 2 will end on lap 185, and then the final 127 will be run. So my prediction to win, where to start? So let's start with the Hendrick crew. Alex Bowman was top 5 all day last week, top 10 for sure. And then he, with some pit strategy and some good performance on pit road, got to the front, won a race. I don't think he's going to be competitive here at Phoenix. I don't have the stats offhand, but I know he hasn't won at this track. So I don't really see him being a factor. I think William Byron will have another strong day, but I don't think he'll be really in a position to win. I think Chase Elliott will have a stronger race than he did last week at Las Vegas. Kyle Larson's always going to be up there, so, we may see fireworks from them. Hopefully not that god-awful, corny skit that Fox did last week. But anywho, so that's Hendrick. From the Gibbs camp, I think Denny Hamlin will finally get a top 10 this week. He's had a bad start to the season, and then he broke his gearbox last week because he went up instead of down because he's not used to the new gearbox. So I think he's going to bounce back strong. Martin Truex Jr. is strong here. He won last year at this track. He performed really well at the high horsepower, low downforce tracks with the previous package, so I don't see that changing too much. I think he'll contend. Again, I think Kyle Busch will contend. I don't really see Christopher Bell being a threat to win. I certainly think Christopher Bell will be a threat to the top 10. My dark horse really is Kevin Harvick, and one, as a Kevin Harvick fan, and two, as a NASCAR fan who knows Kevin Harvick's record at Phoenix. Never thought I'd say that. I think Harvick, is due to have at least a top 5 performance, like a strong top 5 performance. So I'd keep my eyes on him from the Stewart-Haas group. Team Penske, I'd probably have to go Ryan Blaney out of that group. He's been fast every week, just had bad luck. This week, will his luck change? I'm hoping so. Ohio driver, hoping that he does well always. Joey Logano, top 10, back half top 10, top 15. But then the other major dark horses are Ross Chastain, Daniel Suarez and track, both with Trackhouse, showed a lot of speed last 2 weeks. Tyler Reddick in the Richard Childress cars. I think Justin Haley will probably be better as he's getting used to that Cup car, or his first season in a competitive Cup ride. I don't really see Roush being anywhere competitive this week. Same with 2311. Oh boy. So I think I'm gonna pick a Joe Gibbs car. And I think I'm going to go Denny Hamlin. I think Denny Hamlin will bounce back from ultimately a very disappointing start to the season so far and win here at Phoenix. He finished second, I believe, last year in the fall at the championship race, only behind the champion, Kyle Larson. So I think Denny Hamlin will win. I think it'll be close. I think, again, this is another one of those tracks where how's this next-gen car working? It's a short-ish track. It races a lot like a short track because of how low the banking is on the track. But, it's yet to be seen how these 1 mile tracks will perform, especially Phoenix, which is this hybrid intermediate short track combination. And it's got a dog leg that you can cut the crap out of. So we'll see if drivers get aggressive off of turn 4 down there. I think it'll damage the diffuser, so I don't expect to see too much of that other than maybe off of a restart, but who knows? Someone may truly send it. And, again, I'm looking forward to this race. So far we've had, with the Clash and the first 3 points races, they've been fantastic. The duels were, a symptom of the part shortage. I still enjoyed the duels. I just like super speedway racing. So, I haven't been disappointed at all this season, and NASCAR's really, really nailed the car so far. I mean, a few small issues, but nothing like I honestly thought there was going to be, which is good. So then moving on just to look at the points real quick, the bubble is tied with Kevin Harvick and Stenhouse. Larson's your regular season leader. He's locked in the playoffs. Cindric's locked in, and so is Alex Bowman. No real surprises. In the top 20, other than maybe Ty Dillon. I probably would have not had him in the top 20, but a good start to the season for him. Good job on Eric Almirola. He's the only driver that's had 3 top 10s this season so far, and 25 drivers have had top 10s. So it's been quite competitive up front for the Cup Series, so congrats to him. He's holding down 6th place. Bubba Wallace and Austin Dillon, another shout-out, or some more shout-outs for them being in the top 10. But it's still early. Like I mentioned, the bubble doesn't really matter here until we start seeing, who's locked into the playoffs. What's that battle going to be? Is anyone, from 21st on to 30th, if they win, they're in. So are any of them going to win? I don't think it's going to happen at Phoenix is my prediction. Actually, no, I do. I do think it's going to happen at Phoenix because Denny Hamlin, who I completely forgot was outside the top 20, and I think he might be 28th, something like that. Is outside of that, so he's not on the screen, but I think he's going to win, so he'll be locked into the playoffs. So that wraps up the Cup Series. Just moving on to some general news in the other major motorsports that we cover here on the Wargiven Racing Hub. For IndyCar, Ed Carpenter announced that he will be running the oval races and hit the third Ed Carpenter racing car, the number 33. So he'll be. It'll be exciting to see him back out. He always likes to run he's still quite competitive on the ovals, and he's always fast at Indianapolis, so that'll be fun to see at the 500. And then J.R. Hildebrand announced that he will run the ovals in the number 11 A.J. Foyt car. If you remember to the IndyCar season in St. Pete preview or the weekend or the racing recap that talked about St. Pete, you would know that Tatiana Calderon has moved over from F2 and is running the road and street courses in the number 11 car. Hildebrand will be partnering with her to complete the season for that car. And Hildebrand is, famous for, I believe he hit the wall coming out of turn 4 on the final lap of the Indy 500, one of the past 10 years Indy 500, and lost because he hit the wall and finished second. So solid driver. He made the race last year, the 500, driving, I believe it was the number 1 AJ Foyt car, which was a tribute to, obviously, AJ Foyt, his boss. So it's exciting to see him back. This now means that I believe, if I've done my math right, we will have 27 cars at Texas next week for IndyCar, maybe 28. And, this obviously confirms the Indy 500 has 2 more cars, as the 11 wasn't confirmed there yet. It was rumored, and the 33's a new car. Moving on to Formula One, testing in Bahrain wraps up today. About just before the Xfinity cars take to the track for practice and qualifying, with day 3 in Bahrain, as Kevin Magnussen is the big news, has returned to Haas F1 to replace Nikita Mazepin. And actually, in Friday's session, Magnussen, in that extra time that Haas got for their delayed shipment due to logistical problems, actually went fastest overall in the day. I think that's because teams are sandbagging, but good to see that he's adapting back to life in F1, and he deserves to be in F1 in my opinion. Sad that we won't see him over in the States for some of the IMSA races, or that WEC Peugeot. Delayed, not only missing the start of the season, then missing the 24-hour Le Mans. Peugeot, and then they lose Kevin Magnussen. Yikes. And then another note, Daniel Ricciardo has tested positive for COVID-19, but should be okay to race next week, following all the COVID protocols. So best of wishes to him that, he feels better and is able to race next week in the first race. Moving on to the World Endurance Championship, or WEC, they return to Sebring for the first time since 2019, and they have their season prologue, which is just their shakedown weekend of practice at Sebring this weekend. And then that's previewing the 1,000 miles of Sebring next weekend, with the Le Mans entry list being revealed this week at 62 cars. Notable highlights being the 5-car LMH category, I believe it's 7-car GT LM category, and then the rest of the field being filled in with a ton of LMP2 cars and a ton of GT AM cars. So that will obviously be a very exciting race, as it always is. And then IMSA announced their entry list for Sebring earlier this week. At the moment, it is 52 cars across the 5 classes. So on that tight, twisty, half-airport racetrack and very bumpy racetrack, it will be lovely to see with the 12-hour race. And if you can't tell, NASCAR, IndyCar, Formula One, WEC, and IMSA all have races next week. So if you're following this channel and you like a lot of motorsports, there will be a lot of motorsports content coming next week covering all 5 series. But then finally, on a more sad note to end today's podcast, my thoughts and prayers with the David Gilliland racing team. One of their haulers was involved in a very serious accident while transporting a car for Friday's ARCA Menards race to Phoenix. And unfortunately, the driver of that hauler passed away from his injuries. And so my thoughts are obviously with his family, the families involved, both as passengers in the hauler and the other car involved in the accident, and then for the team that they can find some, comfort with the loss of one of their the members of their team. So again, thoughts and prayers to all of those involved with that horrible and horrifying accident involving one the unsung heroes of motorsports, those that get the cars to each racetrack in order for us, the fans, to watch racing. So sorry to end on that more depressing note, but again, this weekend we've got NASCAR Xfinity later today, and then the Cup Series tomorrow, and then next week we've got 7 races in 2 days. It's going to be a blast. I'm going to probably drive multiple people in my family crazy, but, I'm going to look forward to doing it. So with that, keep watching the racing, enjoy the racing, try to get to your a local racetrack for whatever series to just show them your support, give each motorsport a chance, and I feel like you'll find something that you enjoy in it. So with that being said, Enjoy the racing later today. That's all from me, and cheers.